This podcast is brought to you by Hoare Chartered Accountants. Hoare Chartered Accountants are based in Galway City and are a leading provider of audit, accountancy and taxation services. For more information, visit hoarecharteredaccountants.ie. You're welcome along to the Maroon and White pod. Unfortunately, it's disappointment for the Galway senior footballers and they have missed out on a place in this year's Allianz Football League final. Kerry and Mayo will play this weekend. Galway finished third and narrowly miss out on a place in this year's league final. I'm joined by Ciaran Murphy and Alan Flynn to look back on Galway's defeat yesterday to Kerry, where they lost 324 to 219. Ciaran, coming to you first, is it a good thing Galway have missed out in the league final? I started to debate myself last night on Twitter saying just I felt that Galway were 100% going for the league final. I don't buy it that they weren't, and I suppose it opened up a can of worms.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know. If your latest journey into arguments on Twitter, Paul, I've decided I've consciously uncoupled from Twitter. I can't handle it anymore. So I don't know how much trouble you got into for suggesting such a thing, but I think this has been the daftest football league that I can remember, and that's for a variety of reasons. Obviously, the rules led to just like a huge burst of engagement from the public in this league. And I think a massive amount of interest as a result. And maybe there was an element of us all maybe getting a little swept up on how good Galway were in parts at the start of the league. And when that happens and results maybe start to take a little bit of a downward turn, you might be inclined to kind of follow the massive up with a major downer. To be honest, I think I wouldn't be overly upset about the idea of not reaching a National League final. Like the experience of the last two winners should be enough to put anyone off. You know, Derry and Mayo both. It's not just that people on the outside pointed at them winning the National League as maybe a distraction in their seasons. I mean, they did it themselves. Like that was the reaction. Like last year, from the second Donegal went to Derry and beat them, the fact that they won a league final, a brilliant league final, a brilliant occasion, one that was celebrated on the day, and all the rest of that. You know, even then it dawned on them this league final was worth nothing. So I mean, I think on balance it wouldn't have been any harm for Galway to go and win a national final in Croke Park. We have like a nasty little habit now of losing up there. It would have turned out that it was Mayo in a National League final. Wouldn't have been any harm maybe to beat Mayo in that final if that's how it panned out. But I wouldn't be getting too upset about it, to be honest. I don't think it's a major deal. I think we'll go over to New York. We'll do what we have to do there. It's not so much the week between the National League final and New York that I would have been worried about. It's kind of the hangover from New York, landing on the Monday evening or whatever, and then having whatever it is, I think 13 days to look ahead to a kind of semi-final. Like that's the part of the season that I'd be worried about. Whether we won or lost a National League final, whether that would have had a major impact on training that week after New York, I'm not entirely sure. But I kind of feel like it's no harm. Like I was getting very carried away after the Donegal game. I mean, I thought Galway had put together kind of a series of very, very good performances up until that point. And so maybe it's no harm just to kind of dampen the expectation a little bit. And certainly not reaching a National League final would do that.
At the same time, Alan, I feel Galway were targeted in the league final.
Well, I think Porrick, in fairness, is the type of guy that he does. He certainly had it in his mind about trying to maybe getting one of those titles on, and he doesn't like losing, and I think that's what makes him the man he is. But yeah, like I agree with you. I in the sense of the actual outcome of it, getting to the league final, maybe maybe winning it. You come out of that and everything. Like, there's no question about it. Like when you lose, or maybe the performances aren't where they are, you definitely reflect more. And I think that's like everyone can see that. And so I suppose if that curve had been rising all along from the Armagh game to Mayo, Donegal particularly, and then we went on and I suppose let's say had performances and wins, particularly against Dublin and Kerry, um, you don't reflect as much, and you probably feel that you have a lot of the boxes ticked. Um, now they have four. They have New York, but I think there'll be an element of work being done right up to that game, and maybe even the week of, to prepare what you'd have to say you'd be looking like you're preparing for Roscommon. So it gives them that 4 week period. There is I would feel a few things that need to be looked at, because I suppose the weather conditions as well, I think, had a huge impact in the first 2 or 3 rounds of the game of the league for all teams in terms of having the wind or not, and games were just getting away from teams, and like I was at the Donegal game, and it was just like it was incredible some of the scores that Galway were getting, but I think considering, I suppose, the weather conditions and stuff, like you're not, well, at least we would hope that we won't see weather conditions like that as the year goes on. So I do think that as things have settled down, the defensive shape, and being able to deal with players man on man is something that Galway are probably going to have to get more accustomed to, like everyone else. But there was definitely gaps, and those gaps are you could see a few more of those, I think, over the last couple of games, particularly. I think the game in Tuam Stadium was probably a little bit different. The pitch is a little bit tighter, and I think they dealt with that fairly well. Albeit, I do think that Tyrone probably would feel that they would, they probably should have won that game. If you think back, that Galway got a draw that day, where Shane was able to bring the ball outside the arc and get a 2-pointer. So, and that was of a breach call been on Tyrone, which was, I think, from a substitution. So, I think Tyrone were probably feeling that they were a bit unlucky as well. So that's 3 games, that you could potentially have lost. And so that mightn't be a bad thing in the long road, as Ciaran said there. It's a time now to maybe look at things that we've done well at, the 2-pointers and all the 2-pointers that Shane was getting and all that. I do feel some of that was to do with conditions, and that's not to take away from the excellent kicking that there was being done, but you can see how that has reduced a little bit now in the last couple of games, and obviously that bearing in mind that Shane has been injured. So I do feel that they need that time now, and maybe they wouldn't have got that time if they had to play at Grove Park next Sunday, and then the preparations for going to America.
Yeah, I mean, to your original question, Paul, like, do you think Galway were targeting the league final? I think they were, but I also kind of feel like it was no one's going to be risked injury wise. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's kind of like a black and white issue where you can say yes, we want to be in a league final. No, we definitely do not want to be in a league final and pull up the handbrake. It's like it's in the gray area of these little minute calls over players' fitness and like it's presented as a binary all the time. X team wants to be in a league final, Y team doesn't, and that's it. I think it is a little more complicated than that. I think Galway would have taken it if they were in a league final, but I don't think we should. I don't think the team and management are overly upset that we're not, and I don't think we should be overly upset either, to be honest.
For both of you kind of here, is the biggest concern from the last 2 games how we've got carved open when teams have run at us? Because maybe with the old rules under Cian O'Neill, we had a structure, we had a defence, and we were really hard to break down. But the last 2 games, it has been worrying.
Well, I mean, one thing I would say about that, Paul, right, is that Maurice Brosnan was saying earlier today that we conceded 1 goal in 5 games while Sean Fitzgerald was playing fullback. And we sent Fitzgerald after Sean Bugler against Dublin, and he wasn't playing yesterday, and we've conceded 5 goals. And I mean, to be honest, Sean Fitzgerald is an interesting case, right? Because I think a lot of us who watch Galway think, okay, this guy isn't Tomás O'Shea on the ball. And there's an element then that we do kind of underestimate maybe his abilities, you know? Um, but I have to say, when I heard Morris say that, and I know Morris is a friend of this show, it did give me pause, you know? You think as well, to be fair, no Dylan McHugh
Yeah.
on yesterday, which is a massive thing as well. You know, so you go all the way back to 2022 in Castlebar, and you see the way Dylan McHugh and Kieran Malloy that day were able to drop back deep into defence, like they're just past masters at it. Dylan has added layers onto his game since then, but he is like an acknowledged one of the best in the country at that particular role. So I kind of feel like yes, it's a systems thing, but it's also it's also a player thing. You know, of course, players are going to be better. Some players are going to be better at implementing a defensive system than others, and I just think those two things. I don't know what you think, Alan. I think those two uh, individual cases might go a little bit to explaining why we looked so open yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's more asked now of players in defense, you know, individually. So I guess, well, if we cast them on back to the last maybe couple of years, especially, you know, Galway operated very, very well with, you know, the two wing backs tucking in a little bit in terms of covering off the full back line, midfielders, half forwards dropping back into position, and there was always kind of a nearly a layer behind the player that was tackling. So you miss a challenge, there's a player ready to back you up, support you. And listen, a lot of teams played the system, but Galway were exceptional at it. So now, you know, I was just even looking at yesterday, like, and so Liam Silk, centre half back, and like Liam is an exceptional player, and he's been tasked with Conor Callan last week, Paddy Clifford this weekend, and it's just because the ball is moving so quickly, it's very hard to fill a gap like that. So Liam has to go after those two players. You know, normally in the previous version of the game, the ball is moving slower. It's moving, you know, maybe 4 or 5 seconds slower coming up the field. A midfielder, a half forward even can drop back into that position, close that gap. Player teams as well are probably not looking to try and break as quick. So now you have a situation where you have less players that can get back. The ball is moving quicker. And I suppose when the half back line, and that I suppose I'm mentioning Liam, but any of the half backs now, they're preoccupied with their man a lot more. So it's hard. So now there's a decision to be made about you know, staying with their man or covering back and filling the gap in front of the full back line. And it's, you know, these are things I think that players are trying to figure out from game to game, and these matches are coming so thick and fast. It's even, I'm sure it's very hard for the management as well to try and get clarity on it in terms of exactly this is what we need you to do. So I think that brings a challenge then that regardless of what the system is, there is going to absolutely be situations where players are going to be one-on-one. And there's going to be a man running at you, you know, then your capabilities as a defender, how good you are on your feet, how strong you are in the challenge. Can you turn the player out again towards the sideline? There's things now being asked of defenders that really they haven't been doing for a long time, if at all. So I think that just takes time. Like Johnny McGrath is an exception to maybe a lot of the things I'm saying here. I thought he did a great job again yesterday. Yeah. But you know, I think it's fair. Like we're going to need more than one. I think Kieran makes a great point about Sean Fitzgerald. He potentially is a second one, and he's a guy that's been playing the full back line for probably most of his career. So he's very accustomed to that. Like I think Daniel O'Flaherty is excellent going forward. Sean Kelly is the same. But they probably need time to get used to this situation where you're going to be on someone at stages in the game, and maybe not the cover mightn't be there straight away. So I suppose what I'm getting at in terms of the shape. In the previous version, it was very structured, and sure, listen, that's one of the reasons that we probably all wanted to see change in the game is that, you know, when you didn't have possession, teams were just getting back into shape. And they saw the same picture in every play that they didn't have possession. So now the ball is breaking quicker. the ball is moving faster, and you need to be able to deal with what's in front of you.
Yeah, there's some real interesting points there, and it's probably with the defenders now, like as you're mentioning there, there's three or four defenders who actually have to defend now. They can't just drop back into that space. If we're to look at the performance yesterday against Kerry, overall, Kieran, what did you make of it?
I mean, we were second best for the whole game, really. I like there was obviously there was the stage in the second half we got it back to a point after Tierney's goal. But even then, I mean, Kerry just kind of just eased away from us there after that. Um, so I mean, like there were parts of it in the first half that you're kind of saying, right, well, it's kind of wide open. We're doing some good things here. Um, and there's maybe there's a chance that, we nick this kind of in the fourth quarter. But to be honest, like I feel like there was an element even of like fatigue around the middle. I didn't think we were full of running or anything like it in the middle third. I don't think our kicking game wasn't really on. I mean, Conroy's ball for Tierney's goal was like a thing of beauty. It was absolutely just on the money. Um, but I kind of feel like we only really played in fits and starts. I don't think there was a whole lot of anything to our game, to be honest. And I found myself looking at the scoreboard at various stages in the game, thinking, God, we are kind of still in this if we decided to play for the next 10 or 15 minutes. But like Kerry had all the cohesion. I think they had all the energy in the game. Um, like they moved the ball really, really well. Their hand passing was a lot slicker than ours. Um, and we kind of there was an element of kind of individuality, I think, to even the good stuff that Galway did. It was good to see Ciaran Malloy show up as well as he did. Um, but yeah, Kerry kind of had their way with us for large portions of the game. Um, and again, I kind of feel like as I'm watching it, or at the end of the game, it's like 324 at home is an incredible amount to concede, with and no two-pointer. Like that, and actually, there is, I think, six frees, but still, like that's 318 from play, which is that is a massive tally to be conceding at home. But you kind of have to just talk yourself through why that is. Like the couple of absentees defensively. You look at the job that Johnny McGrath did on David Clifford. I mean, like to concede 324 and for your cornerback's performance to be nearly the main shining light, that doesn't say a whole lot for the team display. Um, yeah, I mean it wasn't great, but I think you do have to catch yourself in this league, um, and say, right, like what is it in the round? Like we beat Mayo by 10 points up in Castlebar, and honestly, it felt like we had a cheat code for the rules. I was watching going like, should I feel bad for this? Like, if this seems kind of deranged nearly, Um, so you do kind of have to you do have to kind of take the whole thing into account. Like Kerry are moving very, very well. That's fine. They could put a big score on Mayo. I kind of have a feeling they might.
Let's hope they
Um,
do.
yeah, well, I mean, would never say that, obviously, Paul. But I mean, um, but no, I mean, like, they could put up a big score. By the same token, apparent like the Kerry Mayo game in Castlebar was, I think, for anyone who saw it, near enough the game of the league. It was an
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant game. It kind of showed the rules at its best. And I mean that like it wasn't 324 to 219. Like scoring was a little lower. The defending was a little better. The pressing on kickouts was intense and kind of showed what that can add to the game. So, like Kerry they're in a good moment right now. They're not going to play another game for, 7 or 8, another game of consequence probably for the guts of nearly 2 months. So let's just see where they are in 2 months as well. The big thing is to not get too carried away, kind of one way or the other. I think that is kind of the 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 big outcome to take from all this. And again, you consider like this incredible thing that we have that only one of Shane Walsh and Damien Comer can ever be on the field at the same time. like you do have to take into account that we are missing. We were missing yesterday Dylan McHugh and Shane Walsh, and and a kind of like it was great for Damien to get the minutes that he got into his legs, but he's easing his way back into the year as well. So you just got
John Mayer going off as well.
John Mayer going like absolutely. So you do kind of have to take all that into round. But I mean, there's no dressing it up. I mean, it wasn't a particularly fun watch from a goalie perspective.
Alan, when you see Paulie Clifford at 11 and the advantage of having a playmaker now at your number 11, linking the play inside, do you think it's something Galway need to examine?
It definitely asks an awful lot of a team defensively, because I think Clifford plays it very well in the sense that he's not dropping, predominantly he's not dropping so deep that he can just be picked up by a half forward. He's kind of playing in that pocket between the half forward, the natural half forward position, and just outside midfield. And then he's so good on the ball that if he feels then he's not being tracked and he's not being followed, he'll just carry and he'll draw players to him. And if he is, obviously, then there's a gap, and it kind of goes back to my original point about that hole there at 6. Then, and he's so good on the ball. Like, I was just watching him closely yesterday. Like, his ball control, when being challenged, because Liam is very strong in the challenge and in the tackle, and he's able to get in very close to a guy. But like even at that, he was carrying the ball. He's an unusual style of solo. Like he often kind of opposite hand to leg, I noticed, and he's just very, very hard to close down. And he's able to ride the challenge, and he draws players to him, opposition players to him, and then creates gaps. So to go back to your point, I do think it's something that, like, I just felt like we say with Mike Breen was centre half back, for Kerry, and the Kerry half back line seemed to be getting back in front of Damien, especially in the first half, that little bit faster and closing down space. Maybe we weren't, as Ciaran said, and I think he's 100% on this. I just felt that we weren't, our half back line, outside of Kieran Malloy, who came forward a couple of times, half back line midfield especially, we weren't kind of, breaking into that space very, very well yesterday. So we weren't asking questions of their half back line again to make that decision. Either do we come out and meet this, or do we watch the ball that comes into Comer and we say Rob Finnerty and stuff. So they weren't under that same pressure. We were under massive pressure in our half back line, because their half backs and their midfielders were driving through. And when we were coming out to meet them, then they were looking to play little dink passes and hand passes into the full forward line. And I do feel like that their connection between the forwards was excellent yesterday. Like, to be fair to Kerry, like the way they played, and there's no one better at linking those little 20, 30-yard passes around the corner, little kick passes, one hop passes. Like, they're just a nightmare to try and close down. So I do think that we could look at something like that, but again, you need everyone at the pitch. Like, so I think Rob, it was kind of mentioned, I heard mentioned before about Rob at 11. But if you had everyone fit and had a 3-man of Shane Walsh and Damien and Rob Finnerty playing in maybe a triangle or something closer to the goal, that to me still is the best option, because you're with the lack of play, you're 3 players down defensively. You're going to need at least 3 to 4 of your middle 6 or middle 5 players to be able to get back and help your defense. So, like, do we really want Rob Finnerty back in the half back line trying to cover off half backs and stuff? I would think this man is he needs to be in there and close to the goal getting scores.
I think Paul Conroy might be worth a look at 11. The more football I see, the more I look at that middle third, and I know he'll still be in the middle third at centre forward, but it'll be a different role.
Yeah.
The more I just think, it's just an astonishing amount of running we're asking players to do, and I just think that I mean, see, Killian McDade was centre forward yesterday. Obviously, he's going to run the ball. You know, he has a ton of qualities as a point scorer and as a runner with the ball. He doesn't have the pass that Conroy gave into Matthew Tierney in his game, and I don't like. There aren't many around the country that do. Conroy has that, and I think that there is a chance there for us, maybe like Maher and McDade that's a combination of two all-stars at midfield. I wouldn't have any worries about that. I wouldn't have any worry about playing Sean. If you've Sean Kelly at wing back and Matthew Tierney at wing forward, I don't think we have any reason to worry about kick-out options. Conroy would obviously also be a kick-out option from centre forward. I think, you know, and again, it's a deeply unfair thing that we do with players above a certain age, but we're kind of preemptively preparing for the day when we think maybe Conroy's legs are gone or going. You know, I don't see much of that. I mean, I thought Gavin White ran off the back of him for the first goal yesterday. You know, it happens. Gavin White's like an incredible athlete. But I do think that the game has changed now. I think that you are looking at a return for, you know, for people of a certain vintage, like the Greg Blaney's of Down, or, you know, Brian McGuigan of Tyrone, a guy who gets on the ball at 11 and just pulls the strings, as opposed to it being like a workhorse, similar to what we used to think just wing forwards were. Like that's what centre forward has been for the last kind of 10 years or so. I think there is a chance now for Conroy to stay up the field a little. Like, he is a guy that has to be marked absolutely around the arc because he's so accurate. He can pick a pass as good as still any footballer in Ireland, near enough, I would say. He's not going to run the ball, but I don't think that like a guy running the ball, you a kick pass is always going to go quicker than any guy carrying the ball, and I think that if you can drop off a guy who's going to try and run at you because he's got his head down trying to go at you as quick as you can still kind of cheat off guys like that. I think Conroy at 11 is worth a look. And we might see it maybe against Roscommon in the Connacht Championship. Like, that would be an ideal time, I think, to at least try it.
Definitely, and probably Keane Darcy and Matthew Tierney are probably likely to be the two wing forwards you'd expect.
Didn't even mention Darcy. Absolutely. Yeah.
If we're talking about 11 being a debate, 6 is a bit of a debate at the minute. We've seen Liam Silk there. We've seen various players there. Obviously, it got changed up last year towards the tail end of the championship, but one player we haven't seen, Alan, is John Daly. He obviously has a bit of a knee injury at the minute. Likely to miss the New York game is the talk at the minute, but is he a player who has to be in this Galway team under the new rules?
I think well, it has to be. I'm not sure, but like, see, I suppose to be honest, Paul, I'd be a big believer that you'd have to, you know, there's horses for courses as well, depending on what you're coming up against, and there's different type of centre forwards. So, like, yeah, you know, Colin Callan or Paddy Clifford, like John is probably the best reader that we have, an excellent kick passer at least, and you know, links, like, again, I suppose if you're to play a very simplistic game, John getting the ball and moving the ball forward to both Paul Conroy and Paul Conroy giving it into Damien Cormack would be absolutely brilliant, you know. But and he'd be
hold up the laptop there, Alan. That's the game plan.
We'll go. I think we'd go with that. Will we go?
Yeah, we train once a week. Do the gym stuff yourself, and we'll see you in July.
Yeah, we'll talk to you, lads. So yeah, like, so again, I do think he has an awful lot going for him, and I think, in fairness, the only reason that John has probably been out of the team over the last couple, 18 months or whatever, is injury, and so Liam seems to be constantly, we often go to Liam to do a man marking job, and so himself and Johnny McGrath end up being the first two up. So again, it's very hard then for Liam to fill, to kind of play that position and help to cover off the full back line and to close down space when he's, designated to go and take out a man. So I do think that John Daly is probably needed to be looked at, but to be fair to management, it does depend on what they're coming up against and the players what players are suited most, you know. So like Dylan McHugh can go forward. He's also proven that he can drop into space and cover off. So can Kieran Malloy. Sean Kelly has done marking jobs. But it's amazing. Like the one thing that did strike me yesterday, like, and Kieran, I'm sure as a full forward, he'll attest to this. Like there was a time there for like 4 or 5 years when and management, you'd be kind of looking at what you'd be coming up against, and we went through a period where you as a full backline player, you're going up against X, and you're saying, right, can he mark him? And then we went through a period of, right, maybe he can run him, and maybe he can go the other way and bring him up the field. And like it's amazing how all of a sudden that narrative now has to stop, and now it's a case, right? We're gone back now to a case of like one-on-one defending. Can he, if we're constantly losing possession on kickouts, and this ball is continually coming in, how is he going to cope with that? And it's, I'd like to see us get to a place where we can go, right, this is our 1, this is our 2, and this is our 3rd defender that, whatever we're going to come up against, we'll be able to at least keep the score down. You're going to concede. Like we all have to get our minds around now as well. There's a certain amount you're going to concede now, regardless of what you do. The scores are gone up. I think I saw there in Division 1, the average concession is 18 or 19 points. The winning, with the far score is 20, 21 points. Like, so the score lines are just gone massive. And so you're like, regardless of how good of a defensive plan you have and individual defenders, I think you're going to concede a certain amount. And it's just trying to turn the tide when it starts going against you, and maybe starting to win some of those kickouts. John Daly definitely has a part to play, and we need to get to a place where we have 23, 24 players that we can turn to, because it's fairly unrelenting as well. This league into the championship, round robin, and please God into the latter stages of the All Ireland series.
Do you think it comes to a stage where Liam becomes that 3rd defender, Alan?
I think it comes to a stage where you will need him in around there, and I still think he's not 21 anymore. But like he's a hard man to beat, because physically he's got a great burst of pace. He's an excellent reader, very intelligent guy, and has huge experience now. He knows what he can and can't do. How to shepherd out a guy, and he's come up against some of the best players. So he, when you take him and Johnny McGrath, and be it a Sean Fitzgerald or a young Glenn there, like I just think you need to know now who are the guys you're going to turn to first.
Yeah, it's and on the starting 15, Kieran, it does really seem like it's going to be very close to last year's All-Ireland final team that played against Armagh.
Yeah, really close. I mean, I don't think you could say that anyone's... I mean, in the final analysis, if you're asking me now who's the likeliest person to break into the starting 15, it would probably be Cian Hernan, and he's not this year's discovery. Do you know what I mean? And even at that, I don't know who he's coming in for. Like I think Daniel O'Flaherty will start probably ahead of. I think they'll find a spot for Daniel O'Flaherty. I mean, I haven't sat down to pick my championship team. You're going to ask me now, aren't you? But I mean, I'm not entirely sure of Daniel in the corner. And I think that the discussion in relation to Liam Silk is absolutely pertinent to that. I would, if you're asking me right now, would I prefer to see Liam Silk pick up, who has the 3 best inside forwards? Like what county has them? I mean, we'll say, I know Tyrone are probably pretty close. I don't know, but I would rather have Liam Silk, Sean Fitzgerald, and Johnny McGrath as those 3 inside defenders than any other combination, I think.
Yeah, because if you're right here, like if you have McCurry, Canavan, and Peter Hart.
Yeah. Like that's it in a nutshell. I would rather not have Sean Kelly playing in there. I'd rather not have Daniel Flaherty playing in there, and Dylan, you're not going to play in there either, you know. So, and that's leaving aside John Daly. So, I mean, I think that's where we're at with the team. You know, I mean, I've already kind of said I would play. I would like to have a look at Conroy at 11, which would leave Maher and Killing McDade, and then you have Keane Darcy. I mean, have we seen enough from Matthew Tierney in this league to say, well, Matthew Tierney absolutely has to start? I mean, I'm not sure. You know, to be honest, I'm not sure. There, we all know there's a footballer in there. There's a absolutely brilliant footballer in there. This management trust him an awful lot. Have met him vice captain in the past. I don't know if he's a vice captain this year again, but um, I there was a part of me that thought a Galway player who's going to have a really good league this year is going to be Matthew Tierney, just because of the sort of an anger that at the way the final stages of the championship ended last year. I thought he'd actually come out and really try and make a statement, and I just haven't seen a massive, uptick in his performances from the end of last summer. Um, and I think we need to see it. To be honest, I think the three inside guys will be the three that we've already said, and so that's where the team is. I mean, you're absolutely right. I don't think there's going to be a massive uh, change around. I think there's a lot of forwards have gotten a chance in this league, and they've shown up well in kind of fits and starts. But I don't think any of them have done enough to.
Is Matthew Thompson the only really forward? It's kind of took the chance, really.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Did we see enough of Matthew Thompson? I mean,
Yeah.
like to break into a championship team that got to an All Ireland final. I don't think. To be fair to Matthew Thompson, did he start enough games for us to be able to say with any degree of certainty that he's of a standard? I mean, he's certainly an option now off the bench. But I mean, I don't think. Say look at the Mayo lads that are like they've probably the most of them have played kind of 5 or maybe even 6 league games, big minutes in 5 league games. Say like you can make a call on a guy like that for the first couple of rounds of the championship. Be okay, well I think we know what we have more or less. I don't think we can say that other than that we know he's a very talented player, has been very talented on underage teams, and is definitely an option for the future. But I don't think that there's enough there yet. There's not like a banker work there quite yet. And I'd be very upbeat about his chances in a general sense, but I just don't think there's enough there to be talking, he has to start against Roscommon or anything like that. Um, Again, you can get hung up on this idea of we constantly need to be bringing players in. I mean, it's always useful to have supplementary options for the team. I mean, Daniel Flaherty didn't start the All Ireland final last year, unless I'm massively mistaken. He didn't.
No.
But he kind of turned the counter final for us, which we will always be eternally grateful for. So yeah, like I think they're the options. I think Keane Hernan is going to be the option that will end that we haven't seen a whole pile of in the league this year, but he is the guy maybe that I would be looking at to say let's try and get increased minutes in this guy, and particularly say if we were to try Conroy at 11 or some combination of that, he's a guy that has legs to burn.
He could really play anywhere from 2 to 12.
Yeah, yeah. And I would be looking at him. Kieran Malloy on the back of yesterday could yet be an option at wing forward, to be honest. I mean, if you're looking at the game that Galway want to play is how do we allow a John Daly or a Dylan McHugh to take the 10 yards further back and help out our full back line? Like that's kind of that is the big question. Every team is going to be trying to wrestle with that. That how do you actually try and defend zonally in a situation where there's going to be a man over in a bit of space? That's kind of the tightrope that every team is trying to walk now. And so you're looking at serious athletes. And again, like Sam O'Neill, Sam O'Neill has started a good number of games, has got big minutes in a good number of games. I think Keane Hernan is at the moment is above Sam O'Neill. I think I just think there's a bit more to him from what I've seen at senior intercounty level. But I mean, you're looking at big athletes that can fill gaps on the pitch that can allow maybe our centre back or one of our wing backs to just drop back that 10 yards. Like that 10 yards is the difference. Like that's where you actually start shoring up defensively without really losing a whole pile offensively. So like that would be the selection problems that I would see at the moment. But I do kind of feel like that half forward line that started last year in the Ireland final, like Maher obviously will start. After that, I don't think anyone in that shakeup would be sitting all that comfortably on their position. I think that's fair, and I think that's kind of the way you want it to be in some respects. You do want a little bit of churn there, and I think that's where the churn is most obviously for me anyway. For me, I don't know what you think, Alan.
Yeah, I think we have a lot. There's a lot of players in and around that area. Like one thing that I'm a little bit disappointed at is that in terms of real pressure on, and listen, I know we're talking about a high level, a high standard of player in Damien and Shane and Rob particularly, and let's take say a Paul Conroy playing at 11. Let's take those four kind of scoring positions. Let's call them. The real challengers to those players. Like at the moment, like in fairness to Porrick and the lads involved, like who could actually take any of those four players' places at the moment? Like it's not now, and I say that like we're talking about all-star players here, like they're serious footballers. So it's not a case that you're going to just kind of put these guys onto the bench very easily, but you want to be able to turn to your bench though and say, right, we've got a real option here. Like some of the turnovers yesterday, and I know Porrick mentioned referenced this after the match, like the turnovers and the loss of possession, and it says high up the field, okay, goes into our forward line, ball lost, the opposition are on the break. Like this is the stuff that makes it absolutely impossible for your defense to get any kind of structure. It's similar to the ball being kicked into the goalie's hands now. It's just gone. It's up the field, and best case scenario is the ball has been kicked over the bar for 1 point. And
there was one 70-30 that went into Cillian O'Curry that was lost. And I mean, I think he was taken off within a couple of minutes. And like the PJ punishment substitution has made a bit of a comeback in the last
2 weeks.
in the last couple of weeks. And I was like, geez, there's another example of it. But
but it's just you just can't have it, at that level. So he needs players, and we all need to see players that are okay, maybe they're not starting players, but they're going to be needed to come in and game opens up, let's say, and be able to say, right, you're going to give us 2 or 3 scores. And at the moment, I just don't see that. I kind of see a situation where Shane, Damien, Rob, outside of an injury situation, will have to stay there for the 70. And as you quite rightly said, Ciaran, it's nothing to do with age, really. It's this game is so dynamic now, and there's so much required of players that you're going to need the 5 to 6 subs, like blood sub addition, wherever. Like, so you're going to need those 5 guys coming in, but making an impact, and you can't be turning over ball like that. And I've no doubt that Porrick and the lads will be emphasising that. And but I would like to see middle third players. You can be athletic, get back, link and play, but who's going to get the scores for us?
Yeah, and I think to be fair to Cillian O'Curry, he was man of the match in was it the Armagh game or
first
I think it was the Armagh game.
Yeah,
like he started the season decently enough, but it just hasn't been consistent enough from him. Like he is obviously a very talented striker of a dead ball, absolutely, and he can be accurate, but it's just he just hasn't tied it all together in a 2 or 3 game spell where you can say, right, he's a definite option, and we're happy to see that he'll bring something definitively different to the other guys. and like he's been the best of the people that have been in,
Yes.
and it's just not quite the standard that you'd love to kind of finish a league campaign and be like, well, listen, there's a guy that's really given us something to think about.
Where do you think Carl Sweeney and Johnny Heaney are?
Hmm. Uh,
Because
I
we
don't know
seem
how
to
to.
see we seem to see
Yeah,
Sweeney at the start of every league, and then as the league goes on, I know we seen him
yeah,
yesterday for a half, but start of the league he seemed to be really pushing for a spot.
yeah. I don't know that the rules necessarily have played into Carl Sweeney's hands. I don't know. And again, we have to see more of Carl Sweeney playing under the rules to make any sort of definitive comment on that. Um, but I think maybe that like the slower build up and for him to then get set into a defensive position and work like a terrier from there, we've seen him do that. I've actually always been a fan of Carl Sweeney, but I just think maybe the game is a little. I mean, you're looking now more and more at how many kick out options do you have because it's going to be total chaos. Like obviously, Carl Sweeney is many things, but he's not a kick out option, and so maybe that might count against him a little bit. With Johnny Heaney, again on the ball, he's got so much quality. I mean, he's a brilliant kick passer. Um, Maybe there is an element of minding him a little bit at his stage, at the stage of the career of his career that he's in, and that the as the ground firms up a little bit, you're not asking him to kind of plow through the sort of pitches that Pearse Stadium has been serving up over this league. Uh, Again, if you're Johnny Heaney, who's overtaken me since the All-Ireland final last year would be the question I would be asking. And who has overtaken Johnny Heaney? Not, I like you say Matthew Thompson. I mean, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, if it comes to the last 10 or 15 minutes against Roscommon and it comes down to a choice between who we've been talking about here and Johnny Heaney, I don't think anyone's overtaken him. So Johnny Heaney could see a lot of football this summer, and uh, that's never a bad thing from a Galway perspective when you look at the service he's given us.
It is.
I think there is an awful lot of football to be played yet, and it's amazing. A forward, gets a bit of confidence and starts doing well in training, gets a couple of scores, maybe coming off the bench, and all of a sudden, he becomes an option. Like who's to say that Colm Costello won't be the man that'll be coming in with 10 minutes to go and getting 2 or 3 scores? That's all you're looking for. I know that it sounds a bit flippant and it's a lot more difficult than that, but confidence is a huge thing for a striker, a guy that's going to come in. You're literally 10 minutes on the field and you need to get the 4 or 5 balls that come your way and get maybe 3 scores out of those 4 balls. So a lot of that is confidence and being on top of your game. But I do think we need a couple of the options, and I do think that we will need them, and it'll just be a case of who's top of that pecking order when the time comes. But there is a long way to go yet, Paul. Like if you think of last year, Connacht Championship, going
Out of
into
jail against Sligo, like.
exactly, and then you have the group stages, then you go into the All-Ireland series. Like that's a lot of weeks of being together, and levels will go up and down, and players that sort of coming into form at different stages. So I wouldn't be kind of casting the net, or I wouldn't be kind of throwing anyone out yet. And I think it's probably fair to say that there's probably someone here that we're not mentioning that could end up having a significant part to play.
Yeah, Tomo. I mean, what is the
Yeah,
situation with Tomo? Like
Hasn't been on 126 all year.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, obviously he has injury concerns. I don't have the latest of his injury profile, but see, the season is kind of different now as well. Like the league used to be out discovering a lad for the championship, whereas you can actually discover lads in the championship now. Like Galway will end up playing 9 games if the year goes how we all hope it'll go. 9, maybe more. So, there is a chance for a guy again, like if he hasn't met a 26 this year. I mean, you would say in the past that doesn't augur well unless it's injury related, but there's a lot of time and there are a lot of games, and you know, again, like, similar to my answer about Johnny Heaney, if you're Tomo, are you thinking, well, Jesus, I've missed out massively by not featuring in this league, and people have overtaken me massively. Like they've overtaken him for now, if there isn't an injury, but the summer is long. And, we remember what he did against Dublin in the quarterfinal. Like that's a better, pitch for inclusion in a big game later this summer than a lot of other lads have.
Who's your player of the league for Galway, lads?
Johnny McGrath is the
Yeah.
name that comes immediately to mind. I mean, like so much of the talk around the league has been, well, what a boon this is for inside forwards, and we're getting to see inside forwards do their thing, and that alone has kind of franked the whole idea of bringing in the rules. But it has actually done the same thing for all the skills that make a brilliant cornerback. Um, and they might have been happy to have had their abilities hidden over the course of the last few years because it meant they were getting a lot of help and doing their primary job. But by the same token, Johnny McGrath, I think, was speaking after one of the league games, and he said, "I love it too," because it's the challenge. Like that is the challenge, and he hasn't stepped back from one challenge since he came on this team. Like there's what's not to love about Johnny McGrath and his attitude towards the game. Like at stages yesterday, you were looking at himself and Clifford standing side by side, and it was like the height difference is crazy, Yeah, and you're looking at this going, well, kind of this is mad, like we're absolutely dicing with death here. But the difference between Johnny McGrath and everyone else is like his lightness on his feet, like his ability to read the movement of the forward as the forward is taking the move. Like there was one spell there, or there was one movement there yesterday where Clifford got a ball like on the edge of the small square, and it's a goal, like 99, like 100 times out of 100, and McGrath's just on his toe, and to the extent where Clifford doesn't even shoot because he knows actually McGrath just has me here. Like his movement in close quarters to cut off the forwards options, to make him take the easy or to take the backward step, the backwards option. I mean, it's something else. He really is. He's a marvel. Um, so I kind of feel like he's the obvious. I mean, Shaneen has done incredible things in this league. Obviously, brilliant flashes, like just flashes of utter brilliance and insanity. Like the day against Donegal, for all the brilliant scores he got with the breeze, he got one kick, 1 point from play off his left, which it was just daft, like absolutely insane. Took a guy on, stopped, took him on again, beat him a third time, got onto his left and kicked it over the bar. It was like 20 meters. I was on the 20-meter line, but it was at an angle, and we know the breeze that was blowing that day. I mean, it was just magic, like absolutely magic. So, uh, and still, like the Dublin game was obviously the Dublin game, and he did a couple of daft things. That's kind of part of what the appeal is, I suppose. But I still think he actually had there were he was he did a couple of very good things in that first half against Dublin as well. For all that he kind of butchered the goal chance for Finnerty, kicked two into the keeper's hands. But yeah, I think for consistency, it's McGrath for me, unless I'm forgetting someone, Alan.
No, I go with Johnny as well. Look here, I think you've nailed it there. I think John Maher is worked very, very hard. Kind of something that we're becoming accustomed to now, but it's relentless work rate. Probably, if I was kind of looking for something extra off him in terms of what's the next stage he can go to, maybe adding a little bit to the scoreboard. I think because in fairness, he's so powerful going forward. I think if he could chip in and just add that piece to his game where he becomes the player that they're going, we need to get on top of this guy. That again is going to create a bit more space for a forward. So, but his energy is amazing, unbelievable. But
yeah,
what you've
first
said about,
three games in particular, Maher was absolutely brilliant. Like was it the Mayo? No, I'm trying to think what game it was. Three ridiculous blocks in the one game. Was that the Mayo game or the Derry game? I'm not entirely sure. It was one of the earlier
Derry,
games.
was that?
Yeah, it was Derry, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. His work rate kind of in 3 or 4 games.
What you were saying there, Ciaran, about Johnny McGrath and getting in close like that, 100%. Like to be able to do that against like really good forwards and because they're so good on their feet as well. It's not just kind of a one-way street. And he's able to close the space down so good to recover. His recovery, player gives him a little dummy, changes direction, and he's able to kind of step off one leg onto the other leg, close down the space again. But you like he's embraced. You can see he's embraced this. He loves this, and I think like all defenders, like the mindset shift has to be there now in terms of like taking this on and going, I'm going to be in these situations, and maybe a bit of one-to-one work. I do think players are going to have to get good at this, because you think of Croke Park. I saw someone mentioning last night about the new rules in Croke Park. I suppose we had a touch of this against Dublin. It's just a different feel, and we can throw in this in the end of June, July. The pace of the game and how quick it's going to be. You're going to be in situations that it's 1v1, and if he beats you, he's in.
Yeah, I think there is kind of a no excuses mentality that kind of that you want your defenders to just embrace now.
Yeah.
It used to be that you could tell, basically you could say, well, how did you play as a defender? And it was like, it would be defined by what your man scored, and like, it's basically that. Whereas kind of in the last 5 or 6 years, you can kind of always be like, well, I marked my man.
Yeah.
And when he got his point, it was because someone didn't drift into, the zone that it was meant to. Whereas Johnny McGrath is like, I know my job here is to stop David Clifford from scoring 3-3 from play.
Yeah.
And every point less than probably, the 7 or 8 we expect from David Clifford or from Con or whoever, or Shane McGuigan, any of these brilliant guys that he marks, like, every point that he shaves off the average that you expect those guys to get, let's say like 1-5, 1-6. If Johnny McGrath has taken that down to 2 points, then that's a net gain for the team of +6, +7, whatever. And like, you just have to think like that. I think as a defender, you just have to be, okay, what's he gotten in the last 5 games? I just have to half the average he's gotten those games, and I've done my job, and that's it. And if 2 other guys in the full back line do that as well, then we've made ourselves really, really hard to beat. So I just kind of feel like his attitude towards the whole thing is just bring it on, and that's such a brilliant thing to see.
Would you go as strong as possible out in New York?
Personally, I like, you have to take into account the travel. Like we had maybe I'm spooked a little bit with the situation last year with the injuries, Paul, but we're going to win this game. We're going to be getting ready for Roscommon, which is going to be a huge game, and they are going to bring a lot to that match. If there's guys with niggles and knocks, you're not going to play them, Paul. And if there's guys that have a tendency to to come out of a game injured, I don't know how that sounds, but we'll say the likes of Damien. We need Damien 100%. We need 100%. I wouldn't be taking any risk with him.
Alan, on AstroTurf.
Yes.
Damien Comer on AstroTurf 2 weeks
I
before
thought the
Roscommon.
exact same.
Not a chance for me. Not a chance.
Yeah.
Like, I think about London last year, right? And think about how much more preparation London have had, how much more of a team London are in comparison to New York. And again, that is with all due respect, of course. But London have played 7 league games, before we played them last year, and we dealt with that with the minimum of fuss, to put it politely. So I think you get out to New York and you see how lads are feeling, but I would not be naming a particularly strong team. I mean, does Conroy need to be out there on his hips and on AstroTurf? I'm speaking from a position of 42-year-old man who's done a lot of training on AstroTurf for the last 2 months. I mean, even the word just like brings me out in the cold sweat, to be honest. So I just really feel like there's no reason to be taking any risks here whatsoever. I mean, I think it's brilliant what the county board are doing. I know that there's a massive amount of fundraising going on. I know I have so much respect for what New York GA is all about. I met Johnny Glynn out there in 2016. I interviewed him for the podcast and for the Irish Times, and it's brilliant, and it's a brilliant weekend for them. It's a brilliant opportunity for Galway people to get out there and have a good time. And I wish I was going myself, but I think we need to just take take every precaution.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any need for us to be heroes out there.
Do you think, Alan, that they will mix a match day?
I think, in fairness, all the evidence anyway, even in the league, Paul, would suggest that there'll be no risk taken this year with players. And I think anyone that has any issues or troubles won't be played, won't be started, and they'll still look after the business. They're at a play we're talking here about this, the bits and pieces that we need to tidy up on or improve on. They're a top quality Division 1 team now, and they're playing against a team that are, they're trying to pull a team together. They're doing great work.
Team that hasn't played the new rules either.
Well, exactly, Paul. So Galway are a professional outfit. They're going to go out there, and whoever player gets a jersey, they're going to put in performance, and then we're going to get ready for Roscommon. Roscommon have a serious team. They've an exceptional forward line, especially. We need to be having everyone ready for that. And even at that, Paul, if there's players, again, I would say the players won't be rushed back. Like, if player is not right, he won't be playing against Roscommon, because ultimately there was too many players at the latter end of last year's championship that weren't 100%. They were carrying things, and you'd be hoping that we won't have to be in that position again.
Yeah, last word on New York, Paul. I think we talk all the time about the ceiling for this Galway team, but the floor of this Galway team is so high. It's so much higher than New York, and we saw that against London last year as well. Like, there is kind of like a base level of performance that we don't need to worry about. I remember the latter part of the first decade of this millennium, and 2010 and into that kind of the teens, and there was always a feeling that we could lose to anyone, whereas that is not a feeling I have with Galway anymore. Like, I think the ceiling of this, the floor of this team is very, very high, so I don't think we need to. Are you going, Paul, by the way?
I'm not, unfortunately. I'd love to be going too, but
yeah,
no, not making the trip, unfortunately.
No, they'll have to survive without you out there, Paul, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, let's hope GA Plus is showing us there's no.
Oh, I actually, I don't know if that's been confirmed or not, but I mean, they always do, so they always will. So I think we can settle in for a late night. It's the Saturday night, I think, is it?
Sunday,
it has been the Saturday. Is it Sunday? All right, okay, yeah,
Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, well, we can settle in for a Sunday night, so in front of the laptop.
Yeah. Just on it before we finish, lads. Even after this New York game, Alan mentions it there, Ciaran. There is a serious test coming against Roscommon.
Oh, absolutely. And even just kind of looking at the national picture, if having seen how strong Division 1 was this year, to look at kind of Division 2, how tight that was in ways, but also, Monaghan and Roscommon were still the best two teams in Division 2. And if you were to say, right, both those teams were in the Leinster Championship, they're so much better set than any other Leinster Championship team to give Dublin a game this year, And you would have to say that under the new rules, take them out of Croke Park, you would say Dublin coming to Clones, Dublin going to Dr. Hyde Park, like, they'd get their fill of it. They really would. So you kind of have to take that into account as well, that you are, like, Roscommon are a very, very good team. And particularly in the opening rounds of the league, they looked devastating. They looked genuinely really, really good. Like, they are numbers 9 and 10 in the country, and probably even maybe both of them are ahead of Derry, given what we've seen this year. So you are talking about a top 10 team. And Roscommon have the best squad they've had in a long time. All of the guys that were kind of missing at various stages over the last kind of 3 or 4 years, like, they're all back. They're all in there. Um, they've all committed this year. So I think, you know, like, but I was going to say no one's taking we couldn't take Roscommon for granted, but I don't think anyone is. You know, I don't think
No.
anyone is sitting here thinking, oh well, you know, 99 times out of 100, Galway will beat Roscommon. It's going to be a really, really tough game, and you know, I don't think it's going to define our season. You know, I think like if Roscommon were to beat Galway, I don't think that's like dynamite under the sort of our plans for the year. Like I just think that's a game Galway could lose absolutely, and I think everyone goes into that game with their eyes absolutely wide open to the fact that Roscommon have a really, really great forwards. Anyone who's watched the Sigerson Cup over the last 3 or 4 years, or even watch, you know, the college in Sigerson in the last couple of years, in the University of Galway in Sigerson over the last couple of years, knows that Roscommon have a ton of really good forwards, and they're all ballers, and they have, yeah, you know, there's just quality all over that Roscommon team. So, I mean, if you were saying to me now, Roscommon beat Galway, is that a disaster? I mean, it's not ideal, but it's not the sort of game where kind of say Sligo last year where you're thinking, God, like where is this coming from? Like how is it possible? I mean, it's imminently possible that Roscommon beat us. I mean, I think Galway will win the game, uh, but I don't think we need to talk about it as in like it's a banana skin. It's not a
Yeah.
banana skin. Galway are going to be playing a really good Roscommon team, and we're going to have to perform pretty well to beat them. But I think we will, but I don't think anyone else. No one's under any illusions about the challenge of Roscommon.
Particularly Roscommon as well, Alan. They're kind of a bit of a case like us. They've never really had everyone on the pitch at the one time.
Yeah. Ciaran Murphy, big addition back to them. You know, even around the centre of the field, I suppose one of the challenges I think they've found over the last 4 or 5 years, you know, they've yo-yoed a little bit between Division 1 and 2. It was around the middle of the field, and you know, they've had exceptional forwards. Um, Maybe find it difficult to win enough possession to get the ball to them, that forward line. That seems to have changed in the last, well, at least this season. You know, I've just seen a bit of them, and they definitely seem to have a bit more size around the middle of the field. Good, strong player, good, strong runners, and very, very good finishers. Like they, you know, you could argue very easily that, you know, their six forwards would be a match with any other six. You know, in the All Ireland series. So yeah, I definitely think it'll be something. I think Kieran summed it up very well. Like, I don't think anyone is taking it lightly, and I think everyone knows it's going to be tough, and it has been tough every year really that we've played them. I'd be just hoping that maybe our forward line might do a little bit more damage on their defenders than the other way around. You know.
Great stuff, lads. Well, thanks a million for coming on to this week's podcast. That is all we do time for on this week's show. We'll be building up to the New York game next week, but thanks to Alan and Kieran for coming on.
Thanks,
Cheers,
Paul.
Paul. Thanks,
Cheers.
Alan.